If a revolution carries high overhead expenses, most of them it inherits from the greed of reactionaries and the cowardice of so-called moderates. Remember this quote. It'll be important for later.
Corporate needs you to find the differences between this picture and this picture.
Okay, I already see one. Give me. Okay.
They're the same picture.
Yeah, Atlanta's like top 10 friends that peaked in high school. The last MARTA expansion was almost 24 years ago. Let me put that in perspective for you and me. My entire life, this is all I've known and all I've ever seen. Oh man, I swear, MARTA just makes you wanna.
You tripping, bro? You tripping?
Well, the debate continues tonight over whether to expand Atlanta's streetcar. Right now, the streetcar travels around downtown Atlanta and Auburn Avenue.
But a recently greenlit proposal would have it travel along the BeltLine towards Midtown.
Please exit through the rear door.
Doors open.
Banks Rail.
Yup.
Did you hear that Atlanta is planning to put 4 new MARTA heavy rail infill stations at the junctions with the BeltLine?
No shot. Nah, let me see.
Look.
By adding 4 infill stations that are all strategically located on the BeltLine, this will be the first time that MARTA will actually be on the BeltLine, so the individuals going to work, going to school, going to play can be able to get there on rapid transit.
Finally expanded rapid transit options in Atlanta. This is, oh my gosh, this is, it feels like a dream.
Wait, keep watching.
Okay.
From talking with those in the transit world after this announcement, some said they loved seeing some leadership. Like there just had been a lack of top-down leadership to MARTA.
Yeah, so first stop is Murphy Crossing. So we've announced that we're doing this huge development around Murphy Crossing, which includes housing, affordable housing, rental units for retail, etc., as well as this MARTA station. And so we want to do a public-private partnership there, so where businesses can be there as well as the government providing this transportation option. So that will be one of the first marquee stations that we're going to do, and then going around the rest. And so we want to get them all done in a reasonable amount of time. They take some time. I want to see some activity between now and 2030. That's the hope.
Between 2030, who's paying for it? Where is this coming from? Will more MARTA be able to fund all of this?
Well, some of it will be coming from more MARTA, but some of it will also be coming from work that we have by doing public-private partnerships. So how Atlanta has done stations in the past is the past. Moving forward, you can actually build a station that has all the amenities already in it, from retail to dry cleaning to daycare to apartments, etc. So when you build it that way, you're not just building rail, you're also building a community at the same time, and that's how you get the private sector involved, so developers can help us with that.
What does this say about the streetcar?
Yeah, so we are still looking at how to make sure that we can fully vet this process of getting transportation around the BeltLine as well. So we have to think, is it going to be rail? Is it going to be autonomous vehicles like pods? Is it going to be bus rapid transit? People have this notion that we're talking about putting heavy rail around the BeltLine. That's not the case. You're talking about a nice, slow-moving people mover like you might see at an amusement park, or how you see in France and Italy and other places and in Europe. So we're looking at how much will that cost and how beneficial will it be to the public, how fast you can get around, what does it feel like? And so these are things that are in engineering studies right now. Once we come out with that, we'll make sure the public knows, and we can make a clear decision on, do we want it to be on rails, do we want it to be rubber tires, do we want it to be small pods, or do we want to just leave this as a walking trail? I think by having it as right now with these 4 infill stations, you're seeing tremendous connectivity coming to the BeltLine. And then now, how do we get people around the BeltLine?
Gotcha.
Banks Rail. Wait, there's more.
Let's have a current look at certain things. I'd hate to take a 2006 marker to make a 2056 type decision. You see what I'm saying? So that's just where we are. It's no different. You know, nobody's backing away from anything. The math needs to work though.
2056? I'm gonna be over 50 years old just for you guys to build a streetcar around an abandoned railroad right-of-way? This is a streetcar. This isn't even a 2036 decision. And apparently we don't know the difference between what a streetcar is and heavy rail. Okay, this is heavy rail, also known as subway or metro. Heavy rail uses heavier and larger vehicles than light rail, hence the name. And the thing about heavy rail is that it doesn't street run like light rail. Therefore, it's faster and able to transport more people. In the US, heavy rail is often regulated by the Federal Transit Administration and not the Federal Railroad Administration. This is the reason why heavy rail and mainline conventional rail often can't mix. And to be clear, I don't think many people are expecting MARTA to build heavy rail around the Beltline. The trail sharing the right-of-way pretty much takes this option out the question. Okay, so now that we know what heavy rail is, this is light rail. Light rail systems use lighter and smaller vehicles. They transport less passengers, are often slower than heavy rail because they can street run, but are cheaper to build. Now this is where things can get confusing. This is a streetcar. I know in Europe you probably call them trams, and probably call the aforementioned light rail vehicles, especially some of the ones in the US, also trams. The difference between light rail systems and streetcar systems is the fact that light rail has its own dedicated right-of-way for majority of the routes. Boston is actually a great example of what happens when a streetcar system turns itself into a light rail system. The city of Boston over a century has upgraded so much of their streetcar system to have its own dedicated right-of-way, and axed so much of its streetcar system that didn't have a dedicated right-of-way that it actually became a light rail system. Now, I don't believe in completely dismantling your streetcar routes, but I do believe in upgrading them. And that's what I'm hoping the Atlanta BeltLine project does for MARTA's streetcar system. Okay, so let's go over some history of the Beltline. The northeast quadrant of the Beltline contains what is most likely the earliest section of the Beltline. The initial segment of the northeast quadrant dates to the 1870s. This section of the Beltline was ideal for railroad development because it was sparsely populated farmland, meaning there was a lot of space for new manufacturing and industry-related businesses to pop up. This type of development was heavily desired in the post-Civil War South. Mills, foundries, car companies, furniture, and lumber companies all developed quickly around the Beltline. And after that, the residential communities that you see here today started to develop around these industries and businesses. Anyways, fast forward to the 21st century, when this section of the line is abandoned, Wayne Mason, a local land developer, would make a pretty big brain move and purchase the entire northeast quadrant to later sell it to the city for $66 million. Okay, now let's see what the city of Atlanta, the Atlanta BeltLine Incorporated, and MARTA plan to do with this right-of-way. The BeltLine project, since its inception, has always been planned as a light rail project. The creation of the Atlanta streetcar was a step to make the BeltLine project a reality. The streetcar was never actually meant to be a
nice, slow-moving people mover like you might see at an amusement park.
The goal has always been to expand the streetcar across Atlanta to the Beltline. And I know some people might say, well, why would I expand the streetcar when it has such poor ridership?
Shut your
My brother in Christ, the streetcar circulates around 5 blocks. Who in their falcon flying, peach eating mind would ride that? Anyways, let's take a look at the Streetcar East extension. We connect to the downtown streetcar loop at Southeast Edgewood Avenue and Northeast Jackson Street. We continue in mixed traffic down Southeast Edgewood Avenue and have a stop at Northeast Boulevard. Having the streetcar run in mixed traffic like this isn't great, but it does speak volumes about how simple this project actually is. Continuing on, we turn off of Southeast Edgewood Avenue and turn off to Northeast Randolph Street. However, we only stay on Northeast Randolph Street for a block before turning on to Northeast Auburn Ave. On Northeast Auburn Ave, we have a stop right before Northeast Irwin Street. Again, we're still in mixed traffic, so it's not great. However, this is the last stop in mixed traffic before the Beltline. On the Beltline, you'll see that for a majority of the right-of-way, the path is offset to one side to make room for the transit right-of-way. MARTA says that streetcar speeds on the Beltline will be around 20 miles per hour. The excuse for the slow speeds is because of the shared right-of-way. MARTA's YouTube channel is interesting as it's flooded with videos documenting other cities' BRT, but I suggest that MARTA take a look at other cities' LRT. Remember MBTA's Green Line in Boston? Well, their light rail extension to Medford Tufts shares its right-of-way with not just a trail, but also regional rail. Now let's for a second ignore the fact that MBTA knowingly had the wrong track gauge installed for the extension for about a year, which then led to speed restrictions that were later lifted after installing the correct track gauge. Anyways, after that fiasco, speeds were lifted back to 40 miles per hour on the line. 40 miles per hour, that's double your proposed speed. And is sharing the right-of-way with 2 other modes of transportation? How did they do this? Now, MBTA might not be the most competent at track installation, but they did discover that using ancient 21st century BC Sumerian technology, a technology called wall and fence, could be used to separate the different modes of transportation, leading to a safer environment and faster speeds for their light rail. Now let's say you don't like the wall or fence because it looks too industrial. Now let me introduce you to an even older technology. Can you imagine that? It's called art. With this, communities can decorate the fence however they like. And if art isn't your thing, then there's an even older technology called tree and bush. You can simply hide the fence. With that being said, let me reiterate this. This project should not be a
Nice, slow-moving people mover like you might see at an amusement park.
And grade crossings would be a problem, but luckily railroads figured that out in the 16th century when they were first being built. Bells, signs, and automated crossing gates would be great for this scenario. And if you don't like that, there's always the more expensive option of bridge. Again, this clearly shows you that this project is not difficult. Not only are we running the streetcar in mixed traffic, but when we get to the BeltLine, the space is already available for transit to use. Anyways, we reach our first stop on the BeltLine north of North Highland Ave. Here, in the rendering, we can see the aforementioned fence and bush technique being utilized. So why are the lack of barriers being used as an excuse? I don't know. The next stop is just north of Ralph McGrew Boulevard. I'm not really a fan of how far away these stops are from cross streets. I understand that we're trying to place these stops closer to locations on the BeltLine, but I think it makes more sense to place them closer to cross streets so that people can transfer from buses to the rail service. Again, we're trying to make actually useful transportation here, not
nice, slow-moving people mover like you might see at an amusement park.
The next stop is Ponce de Leon, or if you're American, Ponce de Leon. The train stops a lot closer to the market than it actually does the street, so again, transfers to bus services are going to be a lot more annoying. Now, MARTA already has an engineering feasibility report for extending the streetcar further north. This engineering report was prepared for MARTA by VHB. VHB found 3 different feasible alignments for extending the streetcar further north, and this feasibility study is not a
2006 marker.
This feasibility study was done in February 2022, so why is MARTA doing another feasibility study after a feasibility study just said it was feasible? I don't know. Let's take a look at the alignments from the feasibility study. From the northern terminus of the Streetcar East extension at Ponce de Leon Ave, all alignments extend northward over northeast Ponce de Leon Ave, with 2 tracks at grade and west of the BeltLine Trail, until the alignment approaches Northeast Virginia Ave. Here the tracks elevate on a viaduct structure that continues over Monroe Drive, with the proposed elevated station over the Park Tavern parking. Approaching Northeast Park Drive, the alignment returns to grade, now east of the trail, and continues north at grade under Northeast Park Drive, through Lewis Gulch, across Clear Creek, under Northeast Piedmont Avenue, across Clear Creek a second time, under Northeast Montgomery Ferry Drive, to State Road 13. From here, each of the following alignments differ. Alignment number 2, BeltLine Mason. From the common segment, the 2-track alignment continues over State Road 13 on a former freight rail bridge and uses an existing underpass to cross under Interstate 85. Then crosses Northeast Mason Street at grade and continues north on the east side of the existing MARTA heavy rail. Alignment number 2 then elevates on a 1,700-foot viaduct to cross over Northeast Armour Drive, the CSX tracks, Peachtree Creek, and 2 MARTA heavy rail lead tracks into Armour Yard. The elevated tracks continue, now on a retained field, until Northeast Garson Drive, where they cross at grade and proceed north on a retained field structure. Then the northbound and southbound tracks separate to make a counterclockwise loop. The northbound track elevates across Northeast Lindenberg Way at grade, continues north in street along Northeast Lindenberg Lane, looping back south in a dedicated right-of-way through the plaza on Northeast Main Street. The single track continues south in street on Northeast Garson Drive, across Northeast Lindenberg Drive, and then on a structure across the MARTA heavy rail lines. Alignment 7, Beltline Spur Track. Alignment 7 follows the common segment until south of State Road 13. From there, Alignment 7 proceeds north with a single track across the State Road 13 connector bridge and through the I-85 tunnel. North of the tunnel, Alternative 7 crosses under the MARTA heavy rail line and continues north as a single track at grade on the west side of the MARTA tracks between the heavy rail tracks and the Norfolk Southern Main Line. The alignment crosses over Northeast Armour Drive, then splits into 2 tracks and continues on a new multi-span bridge over CSX and Peachtree Creek, and remaining elevated on a retained fill until it intersects with Northeast Garson Drive west of the MARTA heavy rail. From here, Alternative 7 continues in street on Northeast Garson Drive and crosses Northeast Lindenberg Way and follows a counterclockwise loop through Northeast Lindenberg Lane, Northeast Main Street, and Northeast Garson Drive. Alignment number 8, Beltline Armor. Alignment number 8 follows the common segment until south of State Road 13. Approaching State Road 13, the track split into a couplet until Northeast Armour Drive. The northbound track continues north across State Road 13 and through the tunnel under I-85, then turns east and runs in street on Northeast Mason Street and Northeast Plasters Avenue until Northeast Armour Drive. The southbound track turns east and runs south of and parallel to State Road 13, then runs in street on Northeast Monroe Drive and Northeast Armour Drive. From Northeast Armour Drive and Northeast Plasters Avenue, both tracks follow Northeast Plasters Avenue and then elevate on a new dedicated structure above the southeast corner of the Armour Yard and the CSX tracks, running parallel to Northeast Piedmont Road until Northeast Lakeshore Drive. At this intersection, the tracks enter the center lanes of Northeast Piedmont Road, north to Northeast Garson Drive. The tracks then travel in a counterclockwise loop north on Northeast Piedmont Road, west on Northeast Main Street, and south on Northeast Garson Drive to Northeast Piedmont Road. Out of all these alignments, I think we can all agree that alignment 2 is probably the best. It does the least street running, it's double tracked. These are all the good things you look for in public transit. Anyways, the point of me showing you guys this is to show you that these plans are very real, they're very feasible, so it's very weird to see MARTA in the city of Atlanta backpedal on this. And if MARTA comes out with another feasibility study on this, and all of a sudden after 2 years this project is unfeasible, we already know what the deal is. With that being said, if I urge a like and subscription, I love you, and if you made it this far in the video, one sec. Thanks for watching.
Doors open.